what we've done, and I think it was on accident, right? Like I
Hmm.
I am very rarely of the opinion that the masses of people that are following a trend are the
Hmm.
problem.
No.
My opinion usually is, because sometimes it is, right? Sometimes there is such a thing called
Mhm.
they call it social contagion. So that happens. But most of the time, something is being funded and pushed, and
Mm,
the mainstream media is owned by very few people who all think
the same.
who 99% think on the same side of the, whether it's the political spectrum or the like the belief system spectrum.
Hmm.
Whew. What's up? What is up, good people of the world? Welcome back to the Expression of Love podcast. It is your host, Soul Expression indeed. And I feel really, really good about today's episode. There's a bunch of different reasons for that. But first and foremost, let me introduce you to today's guest. Her name is Lovasia Washington Bryce, and she is from Staten Island, New York. She is a wife, a mother, and a business owner. Her online boutique is called Snatchies Boutique and is geared toward providing everyday lifestyle clothing that is timeless and comfortable. She is also a self-fulfillment specialist with a program that she calls Conversation with Self, geared toward helping change makers find fulfillment in their life and business also while also handling the stress that life has to offer. You can follow her on social media with the information in the description below. And let me tell you why I'm so happy that I recorded this episode. This episode is uniquely positioned, I guess, especially since last episode with my sister Keisha, there was so much that I kind of felt a little wobbly about. As you can see in that video, I definitely encourage you to go watch it. It's also a very powerful episode. But with this one, when I left this episode, when I finished recording this episode, I felt emotionally the opposite. So after recording the episode with my sister Keisha, I felt a little emotionally kind of confused and didn't know with what I didn't know what to do with some of the feelings that I felt. But after recording this episode, I was a little, I was like on a high. I was on a really good vibe for a nice amount of time, and it's because in this episode I'm able to speak, or I felt like I was speaking from a way more informed place. I was speaking from a way more involved place. And I was able to share things and, bounce off energy exchange on topics that a lot of people are uncomfortable talking about, or uncomfortable talking about it in the context that I like to look at it from. So it was very interesting. Definitely want to have Lovasia come back on the show sometime in the future. I hope you guys enjoy it. Like and subscribe if you have not already had the chance. And check it out. 2, 1. Hello, wide world, and welcome back to the Expression of Love podcast. It is your host, indeed, Soul Expression, and I'm very excited, people. I'm very excited. Why are you excited, Soul? Because it's an exciting time. And that exciting time is defined by my time here speaking with Love Asia, or otherwise known as.
The self-development specialist.
This one more time, the self-fulfillment specialist.
Well, yeah, self-fulfillment or self-development. I believe,
Self-development.
however how you take it, but self-development specialist, I'll say that.
Awesome. The self-development specialist, Love Asia, which is a super awesome and very much in line with the Expression of Love podcast, name. It's great to have you in. How you doing?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm like so excited to be here. And I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm doing great myself. Been looking forward to this. We had to reschedule one time. Rest in peace to
Yeah.
our last appointment, but it actually worked out. Someone else I had been in conversation with filled the time slot. I said, hey, I'm kind of free right now. You want to hop in. We recorded something, so it all worked out perfectly. You know how God works.
Yeah, he
Um,
works in beautiful, mysterious ways. So yes,
yeah,
I know.
just show up like, no, I got you here.
Definitely.
So okay, so first thing I would like to talk about here is your name or your stage name. If it's not your
So that's my real name.
given name, okay, so it's your real given name. Love Asia. First of all, I don't think I've met a love before yet. I think that's
Oh
you.
wow.
I mean, I may have heard. I don't. I definitely didn't go to school with one.
Oh wow.
With somebody first name Love. Like that's there's plenty of Asias, but
Yeah. Yeah.
what what do you feel about your name? Like what have people like? Have you met other people that heard name the same thing?
So growing up, I wasn't really fond of my name. My
Mm,
name on my birth certificate is actually spelled Love Asia. Growing up, I kind of changed it, so I put it as Lovasia, just so it could look unique. Most people don't pronounce my name Love Asia; they just say Lovasia. I always get the corny jokes of, "Oh, so really, do you love Asia?" And I'm like, "No, I've never been." When I asked my mom how did my name come about, my uncle Kevin at the time, before he had his daughter, he just ordered the name like Lovasia is such a beautiful name, but he ended up naming his daughter Kathleen. So when my mother was pregnant with me, he's like, Lovasia, that's her name. That could be her name, Lovasia. And my mother went with it. That's because my mother kind of didn't know she was pregnant with me. And
mm,
I guess when it came time to pick out a name, she goes, okay, she went with Lovasia. There was another person in our community named Lovasia, but she didn't spell it the way mine was spelled. Um, and she was like a known like a local boxer at the time. So every time I used to see her, I used to go, hey Lovasia. She goes, hey Lovasia. So that was the only other person I've known that had my name. But even social media has its way. So I used to like look it up on Facebook, and I did find a lot of Lavasias, but I've never physically met another one besides the lady in my community. So
okay, so I thought it was two words. I thought it was, but I guess Lavasia is the correct pronunciation. Yes? No? Okay.
it's literally pronounced it as love in Asia, but
Mm,
me, because I didn't like the way it looked like it was two words put together. I just took the E out and then pushed the Asia up. So it's like Love Asia, but it's still Love Asia. I
yeah.
just did my
No,
own
that
little
makes sense. That totally makes sense. My name Soul Expression is a nickname. So well, the soul part is a nickname given to me by my dad. I was about 16, and he started calling me Soul. Now I thought since it was he didn't do it in text, right? He was just talking to me. I
Mhm.
thought he meant your soul, like the soul, like you know,
Yeah.
once somebody's
What's
inner
that?
being, if you will. But it was about 2 years into him calling me this that I asked him about it, and he said, "Oh, because of the sun." And it went over my head for a quick second there, and then I was like, "Wait, you mean in Spanish, like so, like the sun? Cause I'm your son." Oh, and so
Unique. Really unique. That's really unique. I would have never thought that far into it. That's really unique.
yeah, and so soul, and so I put the expression at the end of it. Maybe 2 years after that, uh, I was going by Young Soul for a little bit because I'm a bunch of different things. One of them being an artist, and I was going by hip hop artist, singer, songwriter, person, performer, right? And so I was going by Young Soul for a while, and then I dropped the Young because that was the cool thing to drop the Young, drop the Lil, drop the
So
right,
yeah, everything other than
yeah. And I kept the soul, and then I said, needs a little uniqueness. Like I want to make this thing its own. And so I
Mhm.
tacked on the expression, and as soon as I did, it hit me. Soul expression, expression of sun. My name, in my definition, means expression of God's love,
Mm,
because the sun or the sun's light is the sun's light, right? It's an expression of God's love. Like it just sort of clicked in my head.
mm,
Even though it was self-given, it still came to me. I didn't I didn't plant the thought and the words into my own head. It came to me from some part of divinity, and so that's
Yeah.
what my name means now. You know, it's
Oh,
expression of God's love. And so it was really cool when you said your name is Love Asia. I was like, love, huh? That is
yeah.
like
I haven't really
super
found
cool.
a definition for my name,
Hmm.
um, because I don't know. I feel like my soul represents so many different things. So I haven't like I know that when you say my name, you speak whatever the meaning is onto me. But I mean, it has love in it, so I think
Right,
that's as you know definition as I can get, because every time you do say my name, it does speak love within it. So I think I'm gonna just stick with that.
right,
Not make it complicated. I think it's just keep it very simple, because I think that's as simple as it's gonna get.
right. Well, hey, on the Expression of Love podcast, we are now into the expression of you. Your Instagram is very cool. When I saw it and followed it, I followed it because I was going through. So as you know, Instagram is a hard platform to master nowadays. With they keep changing the rules on how much you should post and what words are allowed and what and hashtags go get banned left and right. You know, you try different hashtag strategies and they start to work and then they stop because one of the hashtags out of the 30 that you put in a single comment is banned, and so the whole post doesn't get reach. So all of that stuff starts happening. I was doing that. I was researching and going through different hashtags that people use that were similar to my own so I could try to get more reach. And I came across one of your reels and it was talking like a lot of your well and I went to your page. I don't remember what the exact first reel that I saw was, but I went to your page and I started looking through your videos and I was like, okay, this is somebody I definitely want to talk to because you have this way of putting just enough emotion behind very logical lifestyle choices and mindset shifts, that you can insert the like I would say the correct amount of emotion into where it's not outrage like people are so stupid, and it's also not too lovey-dovey like kumbaya everybody stand in a circle around the fire either.
Yeah.
Just enough. It's practical emotion, if you
Mm.
will. And one of your recent posts or reels was on comparison. Don't allow yourself to get trapped into comparison. And I thought that was very interesting because my wife and I, we run a holistic lifestyle transformation company called Ufulu Child. And with Ufulu Child, we follow 5 principles: be, cleanse, fuel, move, and shine. And
Mm.
it's basically about improving your life from the inside out. B is mind stuff, so meditation, mindset, and mindfulness, and all of that. Cleanse can be mental and physical, definitely mostly physical. Drink your water. Um, fuel is eat good food, move your body, move your mind, move your emotions in a way that you can learn some self control. And then shine your light, shine give, serve, because it will come back if you do so with no strings attached. So be,
Yeah.
cleanse, fuel, move, shine. That's our, the five. We call it the Freedom Five, right?
Uh,
And so what we call comparison is the killer of progress. We actually like call that mental trap of comparison the killer of progress. What do you think about that?
um, I feel like when you compare, you're setting yourself up for defeat automatically, because you're not giving yourself a fair chance to actually accomplish there. I'm sorry, my son is here and I don't know what he wants, but I'm gonna try to ignore him. Um so I feel like when you're comparing yourself, it's like you're putting yourself at a below level as opposed to the person who has succeeded at what they already put out to do. So it's like looking at somebody's progress from the outside. Of course, it looks like they have accomplished so much, but you don't really truly know how long they've been doing it. Because again, a lot of the progress in anybody's journey is behind the scenes. Nobody has the time to set up a camera 24/7 and see every little thing they're doing. But what us as humans, we always see the surface of things, and then we feel like when we start that journey, our behind the scenes should be what their surface looks like, and that's not what it is. So when you're comparing yourself, you're basically saying like, oh, I would never amount to that because look at what my process is. It's really hard. I feel very unmotivated right now. I feel like I'm in a very uncomfortable place, and I feel like I'm not gonna make it, or I'm not gonna be as great as the people I see doing the same thing. And that just sets yourself back because it makes you want to give up because you don't have hope. It takes away the faith. It takes away the just the journey aspect of it, because the real journey is the hard part. The real journey is going through the mud. The real journey is the process that's unseen. And when you're comparing yourself, you're stripping yourself of that story that you're building in that journey. And by, taking away that story, what is the real testimony behind everything you're doing? Like, what is really the inspiration behind your story? I feel like the reason why anybody does anything is because one day they want their story to be able to inspire the next person. They want their story to be the blueprint for somebody else that is thinking about doing what they're doing. But we also have to understand that all new beginnings are not easy. There's something that we're introducing ourselves to that we don't really know what we're getting ourselves into. We're just saying, you know what, this is something I want to do. This is something I want to try, and I'm going to go for it. And at first we go, and whatever happens, happens. I'm going to take the punches. But when the punches come and we see somebody else's story who's at that moment, they're not getting the punches because right now their bruises are paying off. We go, wait, I don't know if I can do this because look at this person. But we don't understand that they went through their punches. They're just now getting the bandages for the bruises. It's finally paying off. And that's what I've noticed in my journey of being a business owner and being a mom, being a wife. It's literally comparison kills it. It kills it. It takes basically, it's like throwing weed poison on a seed, because you're not even giving the seed time enough to grow. You're not giving the seed a time enough to even nurture itself, to be in the ground for long enough. You're just stripping it away because you're comparing somebody else's garden to your own. But you don't know that if you keep doing what you have to do, be consistent, show up, it can blossom, if not better than the person next to you. But when you're comparing yourself, you're just taking all that away. And you're basically just saying, I don't know if it can be just as good as the next person, but you don't know what the next person did. The next person was also comparing themselves to the other person, but the difference of what they did is they go, you know what? If it does work out, you know what? I'm gonna do it enough that I want it to work. Like, I'm not, all right, it worked for that person, but it can also work for me too. If they can do it, I can do it. That's just a different mindset they had as opposed to what most people have in their journey. So that's how I see it. Is there a way I can excuse myself?
Of course. No, but I love what you said. A couple things. One, because online, on social medias especially, and really, let's even narrow it down even further to TikTok and Instagram right now, because those are the crazes of the world.
Yeah.
You see the end.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of spelled that out for us, but it's so important that we don't miss that what we're seeing is what they're happy about and what they're proud of. But that ties into the other thing that you pointed out, which is the true good part of any story is the hardship, is the struggle, if you will, the suffering, the pain, the frustration, the confusion, the unknown, all of that is the real good part. Why is that? Because there's no, and I say that I just made a video that I haven't posted on the channel yet. And yeah, maybe I'll show you the preview of it in a second. I'll share my screen and share the preview. But I said there's no meaning to crossing the finish line if you don't suffer. You cross the finish line, and it was so, like, if you have somebody who was born into affluence, had all of the best sort of trainers and coaches, went to the Olympics their first time that they tried, they qualified the first time, won the gold medal, that was probably a little tough. But then you take somebody from not from affluence who had to
Mhm.
do all that they could to even get in front of recruiters, because recruiters don't come to the hood per se.
Mhm.
And well, now they do, but they didn't, right, for a long time. And they doing all that they can, and they struggle. And the first few times, and they get last, and then they get like, they place in the middle, and then they start to get first in their school, and then they get last in the regional, and then they go back to the regional, and they start to get in the middle, and then they start placing first, and they get into the Olympics, and they win the gold medal. Which
Mhm.
one is happier standing on that block?
The
The
one that
one
went.
that went through all of the crap to be prepared to win
Mhm.
such a fight. And I say something very similar in the happiness video. It's called "Don't Seek Happiness,"
Mm.
because um, it doesn't really mean don't pursue happiness at all, but it means like that mindset is not necessarily the correct
My
one to
my
really
only
get
rebuttal will be
happy.
to that is that again, we live in a world where people show what they want to show, right? See, that's why on my page I show my vulnerability because a lot of people are not brave enough to show those parts of themselves because we have to admit social media is not really a safe zone for showcasing. Hey, this is where I am. This is my journey, and so and you know what? I'm gonna make myself okay here. Um, what was I going to say? You have when it comes to those type of stories, right? People don't know what their happiness is, their definition of happiness. I can look at Beyonce and go, "Well, I would love that life," right? But that's Beyonce's definition of happiness: to be a world star, a world-renowned star, and to have a very private life and to be able to buy anything she wants. But if I was to go and live Beyonce's life, would I really be happy with living somebody's happiness? No, because I never sat down with myself and defined what happiness was for me. That's what a lot of people are doing when they're comparing, because you're basically saying by looking at this person's story and what they want to show you that they're happy, they're this, they're that. But a lot of the times, people are not even happy with the little bit they're showing you. They're just trying to convince themselves and you that they're happy, but in reality, they're not. And when we continue to seek other people's when we continue to seek happiness in general before we define what happiness means to us, that's when we're kind of setting ourselves up for failure, because
Yeah.
now you have people that chase careers and dreams and they always go, well, when I get this I'll be happy, when I get this I'll be happy, when I get this I'll be happy. But then they consume all the things that they said, they go to the next level, they just never find themselves happy because they never define what true happiness was for them. I define that very simple. My happiness is love. I love to be around family. I love to have alone time. I love to read books. There's times where I don't want to be bothered with social media. Like, I just want to be happy within myself. I want to be able to wake up and I'm breathing. I'm grateful that I have life. Like, every day I try to find happiness with self. Because if I can't find happiness with self, I can't find happiness with anything. Material, money, anything. I can't find it because I didn't find it in me first. I didn't see what genuinely will make me happy that doesn't cost a thing. And you have people that are walking this earth that the things that make them happy, you have to buy it. It's in
Mm-hmm.
another person. You
Mm-hmm.
have to go find it somewhere. When in reality, happiness is right here. It's right in you. But you're not taking time enough to even discover that part of you. Because again, you're comparing and you're looking at the world and you're adapting what the world sees as what happiness should be. And I noticed that when I seen these people, these influencers, I would say, they look happy, right? They look amazing.
The
But
ones that, yeah, the ones that sell lifestyle.
they look extremely happy. They have everything at their fingertips. But in deep down, you can tell they're not happy. And it's crazy because I could read people so good. Like, I can tell you if a person is with that person or what they really want instead of what they really have. Like, I can literally tell you that just by looking at them, because I know that half these people, yes, they have money and all the things, but they really don't, like, they have it because that's their lifestyle. That's the position they're in. They're going to play their position. But if they can literally close their eyes and for 24 hours live the life they really dreamed of, it would not be the life they currently have right
All
now.
right, all right, all right, all right. Good people, you already know what time it is when you get this interruption into your regularly scheduled programming. What time is it? It is showtime, people. It is time for the expression of rhyme, the segment of my podcast where I interject a rap verse into the conversation that me and my guests are engaging in, touching on some of the topics that we have engaged in this particular episode. Definitely feel good about this verse. It's a little controversial, but it's also just a reflection of how I feel. Make sure you comment below your favorite line from this expression of rhyme verse. Like and subscribe if you have not already had the chance. Check it out. We can see the hatred for something different is prevalent. Deep within our hearts, we be searching for the malevolence. We think it's relevant to be benevolent when we benefit, but be hateful and awful when the intelligence is found outside our echo chamber's walls. Unwilling to learn the truth, we just desecrate the laws that govern how we function until it's reduced to nothing, assumptions of our oppression disguising our racial flaws. Well, it's more cultural than racial, because the family unit determines where life will take you. At least in most cases of crime, 90% of inmates are male and 25% of their families fine. The other 75% are fatherless. The kind of impact that has on the culture should be obvious, but we consume content that suggests the opposite. Without knowing the facts, how can we liberate the consciousness within the Black community locked in a box of victimhood? Screaming equality, blaming everything we could on racism and the systems of the past. We should ask how to reduce crime rates up in the hood. We misuse language and preach about inclusivity, then go on a full-blown attack on masculinity, then grab the children and teach them sexual fluidity and tell them the answer to puberty is transitioning. I could go on, but there's still more to come. And I don't want to say too much and get canceled before I'm done. So I'll end it here with a small piece of advice. Never apologize for what's right, just to be nice. And shout out Lovasia for today's conversation. It inspired the lyrics I'm throwing into rotation. So pass your favorite line around like it's a blunt. Show them how we get down on the expression of love. Now back to your regularly scheduled programming.
It will be a normal.
Yep. That's a big point right there. If you really were to ask them, given all that you have,
yes,
what do you really want? They would most of them, right? There are a few exceptions to every rule, but most of them would describe a life that does not look like all of this travel, all of these photo shoots, all of these gifts and watches and whatever they got. It wouldn't look like that, right? It wouldn't look like my life is lived online for most of them. Some of them, sure, okay, and more power to you. But no, it would probably be more interaction with family, more interaction with fellow man, fellow woman, and other stuff.
Yes.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that 100%. I don't think that's a rebut. I think we agree on that. I think that's common ground.
Yes, definitely common ground.
Yeah. Check this little preview out. I want to share this with you. The Expression of Love podcast. It is your host, Soul Expression, and I've been doing a lot of thinking about happiness. And I put something together. I wrote something that tries to compile what I have discovered recently about our collective human pursuit of happiness. The great stories of the past have a lot more to do with the journey toward happiness than the happiness itself. And there's a reason why we think about the hardships that the hero goes through more than we think about the moments that they get past the finish line. And that reason is this: without suffering, there is no meaning behind getting across that line. You feel
that is only true.
Without and so I look around. So this segues perfectly into one of the talking points that I had prepared for today. I look around and I see certain trends that I just don't agree with in my heart. But it's not that I'm disagreeing with the people or even really the intent, but just the execution. And here's what I mean. I see this sort of cancel culture stuff where um, we have developed an instant gratification need for justice, and then
Mm-hmm.
we attribute justice to literally anything that gets on my nerves gets killed, and
Mm-hmm.
taken down, fired, whatever, right? Depending on what it is, different word, but everything that gets on my nerves gets killed, and when that happens, that's justice. And now I have this instant gratification, this almost like a porno addiction sort
Mm-hmm.
of need for right now,
Mm-hmm.
my terms, how I need it to happen, need for justice, which birthed this cancel culture stuff. And on top of that, we have new language, right? We have this concept of microaggressions and looking for things like racism, sexism, just looking for different forms of oppression being
Mm-hmm.
being done in every little corner of our lives and interactions and conversations, where it really is not that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so certain trends, like societal sort of Western world trends that are happening right now, that all coincide with this the mistake of what I call seeking happiness, because people confuse happiness with a feeling, when happiness is more so sometimes a feeling, but more so a choice. I'm not going
Mm-hmm.
to deny that you can't feel joy and happiness and excitement, but like the happiness that we seek, when we say like the pursuit of happiness, when people say that type of, that's not a feeling. Feelings come and go all the time. Moods change all the time. Happiness is more like a choice, just like love. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
choice. Like, yeah, you can feel love, but it's not just gonna be an intense feeling all of the time,
Yeah.
right? You choose it. Same with faith. Faith is easy when things are going good,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when it's time to really exercise your faith and execute your plans, knowing that they are going to succeed or that something better will come,
Mm-hmm.
that's when it starts to get difficult. And these trends, they're not necessarily, in my eyes, they're not conducive to learning patience, to learning faith, and to learning what happiness is really all about. What are you sort of seeing in that context when you look around, and maybe how can we deal with that?
Um,
Sorry, such a loaded question.
no, you're good. You're good. It's a really amazing question, because when it comes to cancel culture itself, you have to understand that we're in a world now where everything's instant gratification, right? But cancel culture, I understood it in the beginning, because when it came to serious situations where people would stand in their ignorance and refuse to be educated. But now cancel culture has become basically a group of people who stand in their ignorance and don't want to be educated. You see how that flips? So when it comes to those people who are so easy to cancel people, that means that they're scared to learn something new. Because in a lot of situations, the people that they're canceling is something that they could actually learn from, or they could reflect on themselves. Because even when it came down to Kevin Hart being canceled, Kevin Hart at a time was very uneducated when it came to the gay community. So he said something very ignorant, right? But what cancel culture is refusing to do is allowing humans to be humans and learn and grow. They're faulting people and mistakes and keeping them at those mistakes. But then they scream justice when cancel culture is basically doing the same thing our justice system does to people of color, Black people, you know, things of that nature.
Like
So
playing judge, jury, and executioner.
when in reality, it shouldn't have existed. I got the concept before, like, depending on like R. Kelly, he should be canceled. We get it. But then when we're not allowing ourselves as human to have
To grow,
humility for other humans and
right?
grow and learn and grow, we're keeping ourselves stagnant, very stagnant. And we're keeping ourselves in a box of ignorancy. Because you have to understand, like, What R. Kelly did was very disgusting, very disgusting. But if you was to look at that hurt people, you get an understanding a little bit. Now, what he did, he should, what he's getting is well deserved. But what we fail to do as humans is to look at the human side of things and understand things all sides, 180. Now, when it comes to like just the way that social media is, I think I heard this on a podcast where you have people that are so embedded into what they believe that they will unfollow somebody, God forbid, if they was to just disagree. And by doing that, they're just keeping themselves in this little box of I'm right, I'm right, I'm right. Because if I go, everybody has access to voice their opinion now. It's not like back in the day where you could only just have a conversation with somebody and voice your opinion and that was that. You have a platform that reaches out to billions of people now, where if you feel some type of way, you can literally just type it. Facebook asks you every day, what's on your mind? And you can literally type what's on your mind and it goes off to thousands of people. And it's little bit, you're held very little accountability for what you're saying. There's no real consequence of you voicing your opinion if it's ignorant or if it's wrong or right. You can say whatever you want to say. So it comes into a place where you have people that you have like a group of people that would just agree. You have people that will agree on a status that they completely disagree with, but just because it's easier and it's less stress to say you disagree, you're just going to agree. But then you have people that are going to disagree and whatever backlash they get, they're going to get, and they don't really care for that. So I feel like cancel culture has died down. I don't think it's as big as it once was. But if it is still alive and well, the people that is a part of cancel culture really are just people that are scared to learn. They're scared to agree against what they know. They're scared to like learn something new and be like, you know what, you are right. Like me, I don't like Candace Owens. Completely disagree with her. But what I did is I went out and bought her book. Why? Because I want to see, why do you think this way? What about you makes it okay for you to say the things you say, act the way you act, being a Black woman in America? And you kind of go against a lot of Black people. So I don't like her, completely disagree with everything said out her mouth. But it's something there that maybe if I was to learn, I could be like, well, she's wrong here, but she's a little bit right here. And I feel like that's what it has taken away. It has taken away the yearning to want to learn something.
It
took away the debate and the argument, because it's like, if you don't agree with me, then hey, all right, I'm gonna block you, I'm gonna unfriend you, and then I'm gonna put you on the cancel list because you said something that didn't agree with what I said. And it should never be like that. You should every day take the opportunity to learn from somebody else, because you don't know what you're going to learn. And just by blocking it off and canceling them and trying to put them on a block list because they just don't agree with you, I just feel it's very ignorant. It continues to be ignorant.
I completely agree. I think I'm going to ask you about Candace too, but I completely agree with your take, your premise, I guess, because what we've done, and I think it was on accident, right? Like I am very rarely of the opinion that the masses of people that are following a trend are the problem.
No.
My opinion usually is, because sometimes it is, right? Sometimes there is such a thing called they call it social contagion. So that happens. But most of the time something is being funded and pushed, and the mainstream media is owned by very few people who all think
the same.
Who 99% think on the same side of the, whether it's the political spectrum or the like the belief system spectrum. Is owned by very few people who push the same narrative, and so is academia. Most universities, most professors are on the same team, which is that's not balanced. That just long term is not sustainable. And so I completely agree that first of all, you gotta not be so afraid that you're just so corruptible. Like changing your opinion means you're corrupted. No, changing your opinion means you got new information and then you realize something. That doesn't mean you're corrupted. That doesn't mean you betrayed anybody. It means that you have new information is supposed to change your mind. But we've forgotten that part for some reason. right?
I
And
have a saying that if anything you learn from like your childhood to now does not contradict you in any way, you haven't learned anything.
thank
Because
you.
growing up, you're supposed to kind of contradict yourself as you grow, because it's like, okay, I knew something then, and then I learned something. Okay, so yeah, that was wrong. Or, you're supposed to kind of have a debate with yourself as you grow, because you're learning new things, you're taking in new information. And nowadays, a lot of people they're not doing that, because to them, it's just one-sided. And like, even with politics, as a Black woman, I'm not supposed to say it like anything of Trump. I'm supposed to be like anti-Trump, right? Because that's the narrative that was already for me before I made that choice. I'm not a Trump supporter. I never will be. That's just my own personal. But it's not everything he has said is not like the worst of the worst. The things he have done is not the worst. Matter of fact, I'll take that back. Things he have said could have been the worst of the worst, because again, his mouth can be ignorant in a lot of things, but his actions was not the worst of the worst, because when he was president, a lot of Black people did benefit from that.
Absolutely.
So we can't sit here and just go, oh, he's very ignorant in the mouth. He says he's an old man. He's 70. I think after 50, you don't care what you say out your mouth, because you're grown enough to say it. That's like with all of our grandmothers. If we was blessed to meet them, or elders that we know, once they hit the 50 mark, I don't like your hair looks bad. Girl, that looks
right.
You'll be like, whoa, like, where'd that come from? And it's just because they have no filter no more. They don't care.
Yeah. You either eating too much or you ain't eating a week. Yeah,
Like,
I know.
the filter of caring at certain ages just doesn't happen. So Trump is damn near, what is he, 70 or older?
I don't know, something up there.
His ignorance is gonna come out. Some of his little education he do got or whatever, it's gonna show. He's gonna say what he feels, and he doesn't care. But his actions was definitely different.
Yeah, the execution of his policies was, I would say, way better than the current president now, Biden, and unexpectedly, because I expected him to be a buffoon, because of, like you said, the rhetoric that was presented, because of that, and like, here's another hot take. I don't think the MAGA language, "Make America Great Again," had anything to do with slavery or racism. No. But I used to believe that very strongly, automatically, because I was just fed the rhetoric. I was drinking the Kool-Aid. One more time.
I said I did it because I educated myself. I think it was a platform with Candace Owens, T.I., Killer Mike, and it was one more person on a platform. And then T.I. screams at Candace Owens, "When was America ever great again?" Killer Mike goes, "When it was a Black Wall Street." There has been great parts in our history as Black people. That was great. But because we're so brainwashed as always blaming on the man and this, we can't even look at our own history and remember when there was good times to be a Black. When we had Malcolm X and we had Martin Luther King, and we was starting civil rights. Like, there was great times. It wasn't the best of times due to the circumstances, but it was unity. We had the Black Panther Party. It was beautiful moments in our history that we don't always have to succumb to slavery.
Well, and what's interesting, if I may, is in middle school, high school, even like fifth grade, in middle school and high school, and definitely in university right now, at least, the way that things are spun, the way that the story is spun, is focused on racial injustices. If you take it, you sort of take into account that when you become an adult, like, things don't, like, how do I say this? What I see is they'll say that someone's whole legacy is this one statement that he made. Is that, you see what I'm saying? Like, and they do it. They do it on both sides, right? Like, they try to paint Lyndon B. Johnson a certain way where he's super righteous, but not necessarily. They try to paint JFK like he's super righteous, but maybe not necessarily. They try to paint Trump or Jefferson, Thomas Jefferson, who owned hella slaves and definitely was raping some of his slaves, right? Like, he's super duper evil and only racist, and that was all of that person, because worldwide slavery was legal, practiced, and the norm, not just common. It was the norm. You at the bottom class of everywhere, not just America. Everywhere you had free labor and you had mistreatment. That's what you. This is what human beings were doing. If another race came and observed, they said, "Oh, okay." Human beings head up classes, and at the bottom they have free labor and mistreatment, and at the top they have luxury and pompous arrogance. That was not. He wasn't looking at something better and then choosing something worse. Thomas Jefferson, right, or people like him, which is, oh my God, cancel that nigga right now, because you can't, because and so I'm leading up to this idea that somebody's like focusing on one piece of somebody's life as this is what this person was about, or this is what this person was, or this revealed what was really inside somebody, is a message that I used to really heavily believe in, that I'm finally starting to, I guess, rewire my conditioning and see beyond. But it's really easy to do that, right? I mean, it's like if I betray a friend in high school, and because of that betrayal I lose that friend, and they never want to talk to me again, and that hurts, and I learn from that, and I never do that again. In cancel culture, what could happen to me is I make a bunch of friends, and then somebody puts online a video of me betraying my friend, right? Explaining how I betrayed my old friend in high school, and say, this is who this person really is. And it wouldn't be true.
Yeah.
There was growth there. There was change there. There was a change of heart and a change of mind, and a long ass time, right? Eminem is another example. He has a mixtape when he was 16. He had got dumped by his black girlfriend. He made racist. He said a whole bunch of racist shit with other white boys into a mixtape when he was 16. 16 years old, right? When I was a teenager, I was making really bad decisions as a teenager. Okay, I was at least with my language. I wasn't necessarily out here doing crime, but I was saying a whole lot of dumb shit as a teenager, and I definitely could be canceled for some of it if it were recorded and released. But this man, right, Eminem, he's put on 50 Cent. He put on for so many people, and not only that, but also employs and sometimes collabs with plenty of black artists who he likes their music because he's about the music. He's not no racist person, in my opinion. I mean, I don't know the brother, but but this sort of, again, this social justice type of stuff. But I actually want to ask you about Candace, because I didn't know. I hated her too at first. And then I didn't get her book, but I subscribed to her YouTube because of the same reason. I wanted to know, why does she think like that? Why does she say what she says about Black Lives Matter? Why does this and this happen? Right? And I totally disagreed before I became privy to certain statistics and certain facts that I'm now privy to. What do you disagree with? And I won't debate. I won't coax you into a debate. I'm just curious.
See, the thing is, I haven't read the book yet. I'm gonna be really honest.
Okay.
The growth area, like I haven't read the book yet. I do plan on reading it this year. Again, when it came to her, I guess the way the media had painted her as just being like anti-black, like everything that she said, she was so pro-Trump, but there was some things that she said that wasn't as bad. Like, I think I looked at it was like a clip on her page where she was visiting, I think, a college or something like that. And she's talking, and basically she's saying, like, okay, that's our past. We went through that. But why, like, to this day, why do we keep holding on to that and continuing to be victims of that? I think with her, the reason why she's blacklisted within the Black community is because she goes against the quota of how Black people are originally supposed to feel. Like, people like her, they call her the house N-word. You know what I mean? They call her, you know, the worst of the worst, because I feel like with the Black community, when it comes to reality of certain things, it's hard to digest because we're so used to playing the victim of our past. We're so used to being there. And it's a lot of people that don't want to be there anymore. Like, okay, it happened. Yeah, it wasn't as long ago, but it happened. Let's move on from it. It's a lot of our culture that still wants to find fault in it because the country we live in have yet to find fault in what they have done. And I feel like if the country we lived in took accountability for their part in the imbalance of Black and white people, then I feel like Black people could finally be able to move on because their pain was acknowledged. Their suffering was acknowledged. And I believe why we sit there for so long, because it hasn't been, well, it has been acknowledged, but it hasn't been. It's been swept under the rug. They want to remember 9/11 as if it happened yesterday, but slavery, you want to take it out of history books. You want to forget it as easy as it came, when that was a strong part of American history. It's not the strongest, but it's one of the strongest as to why this country is the way it is. It was built on the backs of Black people. And I feel like the reason why majority of Black people don't want to leave that grudge is because it hasn't been acknowledged yet. There hasn't even been anything that was like a fair apology. You know what I mean? If it's reparations, if it's just acknowledgement. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like we get little things handed to us, but then you still have a lot of things that remind us of where we came from. When you have police brutality, you have still discrimination in a lot of places, housing, jobs. You have, sadly, Trump, I don't think his campaign was geared to bring racist people out, but those racist people used him as a pawn to show their real true colors of how they feel about Black people. So you have to understand, like, every day a Black person is continuing to be reminded of the suffering that their ancestors had to go through. So what her per se, I would just say, like, I can honestly say I didn't like her due to her going against the grain of, like, Black people and what
That's
we had.
interesting though, right?
Yeah, it's really interesting because you think, wow, like, what made you do that? Like,
Right.
what do you know that we don't know? For you to be so, like, all right,
and
like,
so passionate about it. Right.
So it was just so weird to me. Like, even now, I don't follow her page because she triggers me. I'm not gonna lie, she really triggers me. Because certain things, again, I don't understand why. Like, I don't understand the behind the scenes of why she's saying certain things, or maybe, like, why she has those opinions. So maybe, like, my history is not top tier to whatever she went through or what she digested. But I can honestly say, like, the media and certain things that she says that I don't agree with, because, again, I was programmed the way I was programmed to understand that all white people ain't good white people. You know, they have they're at fault to why a lot of Black people, you know, are in the positions they're in. So my programming makes me not understand people like that, especially Candace.
Well, I think it boils down to, and sorry to cut in. Are you finished?
No, you're good.
Okay. I think it boils down to the difference in terms of the political spectrum of how the left and the right view how to attack poverty, or how to, maybe better put, how to pull people out of poverty. They have very, very differing viewpoints, where the left, the more progressive liberal side will say, give them money. The right will say, give them opportunity, which are two very completely different things. If I just give you money, I kind of, and this is another cancel thing to say, but I'm going to say it. I kind of rob you of your opportunity to work hard and get the same, get whatever money you would have gotten on your power and on your merit and on your, what you're able to bring to the society, right? And what you're able to contribute, how you're able to serve. I kind of rob you of that if I just give you money. Whereas if I give you opportunity and I give you correct and reliable education on how to utilize and execute your plans with those opportunities, then I'm not making that same mistake, and I'm not even making an argument for a conservative, viewpoint. But one does make a lot more sense than the other when it comes to this fight. And so with with going against the grain that looks like basically telling people stop telling black people they're oppressed. It hurts because since like kindergarten, we're taught that we are oppressed, that because of my skin color, because of my ancestry, and because of my where I live, maybe, right? Less affluent versus
Mm-hmm.
affluent places, I'm not going to make it. And we internalize that as a belief that's normal. We normalize that belief. And so what hurts is the realization I was wrong. It's not really that I'm really oppressed and I have all of these examples in my memory of how I was systemically oppressed. You
Mm-hmm.
don't. What you have is beliefs that are breaking down and being challenged, and it hurts to challenge your own beliefs. And
It really
so
does.
I think that's where a lot of the passion, because she's very passionate. She's very, very, very passionate in her videos, or in triggering, if you will, in her videos. But I think that's where it comes from. Is she feels saddened, and I'm guessing here, I don't know her personally, that we're sold our own oppression and we believe it. So
Mm.
she's trying to
Wow.
to open doors to say, because I mean, she asks very good questions like, okay, well, what law, where is a place that a black person can't get to that a white person can get to today? Besides, let's say, a Klan rally, where really are we not invited at all
Mm.
today? Like, okay, you go to the 40s and beyond. Okay, cool, but what about in the 21st century?
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Nowhere. Oh, okay.
And so that's the thing. And so with again with the Black Lives Matter sort of movement, with the critical race theory, that stuff that's in the schools, with
Mm.
some of the gender identity stuff, all of that, I think the reason there's so much passion and opposition to it is because it's basically selling people their own oppression and selling people their own victimhood. And people are taking that in and believing it and then begging the government, please come fix my problems and give me free money. And
Wow.
it just doesn't
I
seem
never.
sustainable. Yeah.
Wow. So that's her standpoint. Her standpoint is she believes that people are buying their own oppression due to what is out there and like society wise. And then they're asking for handouts on how to fix their own oppression that they brought
Yeah.
on themselves.
And it's a bit of a simplification. So, I'm trying to, summarize something
Yeah.
that's a little more complex than how I just put it. But yeah, I mean, you compile that with, last I heard, the left owns 80 to 90% of mainstream media. And so when you turn on CNN, MSNBC, all, these sort of left-leaning channels, all you get all day, and who watches them? It's the old people, the people that
Mm-hmm.
are supposed to be wise, the people
Mm-hmm.
that you love so much, because when you're around them, they give you unconditional love, but they're also
Mm-hmm.
feeding themselves one side of the story all day. And so if you ever hear them talk about politics or talk about white people, for instance, if they're not white, even if they are white, because I mean that's a whole nother layer of it, is the white people selling us our own oppression in a way that they think they're doing something good. It's a whole nother layer that's like, most people that are members of Black Lives Matter, I think, are white people.
Yeah. We're
Most
kind of.
people at the protests, except for certain cities like Philadelphia, obviously. I mean, Philly is so
Yeah.
chocolate that, okay, but yeah. So it's layered and it's a little more complicated than I was able to spell it out. But yeah, basically, and not just her, but basically the black people that are on the conservative, more so the right side of politics, are are trying to say that. And you know what's funny, love, is when you see it, you can't unsee it. It's everywhere.
Wow.
It's the victimhood, the you're always oppressed, because what happens is, like think of how people are talking about privilege now. Oh, you're privileged, and you have skinny privilege, and you have white privilege, and you have male privilege, and all of this privilege talk, right? Well, what's
Yeah.
the other side of privilege? It's underprivilege.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so this idea that sounds good and sounds um, scientifically, socially sound on the surface, it's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily uh, it's not necessarily helpful when you start to see how people are internalizing it. They're saying, "Oh, okay, so that means that I can now identify who I'm less privileged than, or who I'm more privileged than, but more so who I'm less privileged than, and target them as oppressors."
Oh
Now, I'm
wow.
an oppressor just because I'm a male and I maybe have a certain opinion. Now I'm an oppressor because of that. That doesn't make any real sense.
It doesn't.
But you can see that everywhere, especially online. You can see that everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I feel like from what I'm hearing, I feel like Black Lives Matter was like the door opening to a lot of oppression. You know what I mean? Because when you saw Black Lives Matters was such a broad, it was a broad statement, but it was such a broad thing that happened that you have people now that's like, oh, well, Black Lives Matter. Well, these people matter too, and these people matter. It just opened a door to opinionated troubles, I would say, because instead of like nowadays nothing's really focused on the principle of what it is. You know what I mean? Black Lives Matters was not to say only Black people life matter. It's just to say that our lives matters too. In order for our lives to matter, then everybody else's lives can matter because we're a part of this country as well. It needs to matter. But it wasn't more so, it was just to say like more outrage, or not even outrage, but more concern should happen when you have the people that are paid to protect are actually killing, right? But it continues to go in because you have these people who are scared to protect. They're scared of the people they're supposed to protect, and that's why they're killing them. They're scared of them. They don't know what to expect, or they have their own biased views internally where they was programmed to view a certain person a certain way, and that's how they act. But then now you have other people who feel, okay, well, if this matters, then this should matter too, and this should matter too, and I feel this way, and it's so much opinions happening where it gets confusing. Like even I don't have nothing against the gay community, but it really gets confusing. It gets confusing and it gets stressful because it's coming down to a point where as a woman, I have to put cis before me saying I'm a woman. But I'm an original woman. I was born this way. Now I'm not trying to say that anybody else who feels they are women, but you feeling something and being something is two different things. And granted, yes, you can change your sex, but you can never originally be the thing that you're changing into. Like I would, if I wanted to be a man tomorrow and I go and I get all the proper procedures, I would never truly fully be a man.
Nope.
I can act the part, I can look the part, but
You can
nothing in my
feel like
genetics, yeah,
you are the part. But
but
no.
nothing in my genetics and DNA can identify me as a man. And I feel like when it comes to that, I have nothing against it. If that's how you
Right.
feel, but when it comes to the people who are really the original people who are was born that way, it makes it hard for us because now you have trans women feel like they're more women than women. You know what I mean? It's like so much things are happening where it's kind of it hurts. It hurts, especially having to raise a kid in a society. It's confusing. It's very because God forbid you say something wrong. Here comes cancel culture. Here, oh, you're this, you're that. No, not only am I uneducated about the matter, it's a scary place to live in a world where I can't just be a regular human. I have to be a cis woman. I can't just be a woman. I was born a woman. I wasn't born a cis woman. I was born a woman. But because we're in a world where every little thing has to matter, because every little thing is sensitive.
A
It's
form
very
of
sensitive,
well, they say every little thing is a form of oppression.
but it's
Because again,
not.
your words now are microaggressions.
It's not. It's not. It's a conversation. It's an opinion. It's my opinion, which I have every right to feel because it's my brain and my opinion. Now, am I saying my opinion might not affect you? It might because it's my opinion through my point of view and how what I know up to date right now. But am I saying that my opinion won't change? Yes, it can. Because just like everybody has a-holes, everybody has an opinion. And sometimes they change. But that doesn't mean to fault me for my opinion in the time that I stated. And I feel like with that is, again, people are no longer allowed to make mistakes. And I feel like that's why I do what I do, is because I show my vulnerability out loud, because I am human. I am not trying to be perfect. I'm just trying to progress day to day to just be a better human for my own sake of peace. But you have people that they don't even want people to make mistakes. It's like you have to live in this perfect world, look perfect, be perfect. And that's not okay, because in a world where it's so unbalanced, you have to make mistakes. You have to learn. You have to, figure it out. And it should be safe to figure it out, no matter if you're doing it on a social media platform, if you're living it in your day-to-day lives. Because you have a lot of people that are very depressed is because they already presented this perfect life, and they have to uphold it. They can never come out and be like, you know what, I'm down. I'm not feeling it. I'm feeling really bad. They can't do that. They have to. That's like the lady. I think she was a New York Miss New York, or she was a pageant queen.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
She killed herself. And I'm telling you, I went on this girl's social media. She was living the life. She was living a life, living in Manhattan. She interviewed Denzel Washington. She was doing charity events. Very, very beautiful girl. She was living the life to me, but she killed herself. That enough should be enough, like, explain
Right.
to be like, you know what? The narrative has to change somewhere.
Absolutely.
It has to change. Overall, it just has to change, because if we continue to move the way we're moving, a lot of people behind these screens are going to become victims of a lot of depression and ignorance, and just
Yep.
it's a lot.
And
It's a lot.
and anxiety,
Yeah.
because what something that's being, how do I say this? Because what's blooming out of all of the chaos, not to be insensitive, but all of the chaos is the habit of looking for trouble. Like,
Mm-hmm.
the habit of looking for what scares me, so to
Mm-hmm.
speak. I'm like, got my eyes open for anything that could potentially be dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like that's like overshadowing looking for things that could be interesting, looking for things that could be beautiful, looking for things that could be nice, or fucking normal.
Yeah.
Like, by the way, I noticed you're not cursing. If my cussing gets on your nerves, just
No,
let me.
you're fine. You're fine. I
Okay.
just choose not to, because I don't know what platform we're on, so I don't want to be like cursing. You're like, wait, I gotta edit that. Wait, stop. I gotta do edit. So I was
No,
like,
no, 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 no. Shit, fuck, damn. Um, it's in me. Anyway, yeah, that's how I was. I'm not gonna say raised, but it's in my dad real heavy. It's in my
yeah,
mom real heavy. It's in my we
it's in
cuss.
my mom real heavy. My mom curse
Gotcha.
she's a sailor, so
Yeah, my,
she
my
just
pops works in construction, so yeah,
yeah.
that's all I do.
My mom works with kids, so you know how that happens. It's
Oh,
just
oh yeah. So when she get home, she let loose.
yeah, she lets it all out. All out.
I was a substitute teacher for 7 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, um, but anxiety and trying to look the part too much, and trying to keep yourself away from danger too much, and trying to please people with your
Mm-hmm.
conversation and with your opinions too much. You lose yourself in
Yes.
the anxiety. You lose yourself in being anxious about who you're supposed to be and
Mm-hmm.
what you're supposed to know about yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And really, like, people aren't even really interested in knowing themselves. They're interested in, I'll say we, to make it again more sensitive. We are interested more so today, instead of in knowing who I really am,
Mm-hmm.
in knowing the words that are supposed to describe who I really am.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a problem.
A big problem.
Yeah, and it's not a problem that we can just go, oh, that's a problem. Like, no, that's like the problem. One of them.
Yes.
Like,
And that's why I believe I went towards self-development, because
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah. Talk about how you got into. Sorry, talk about how you got into what you do today.
um I so how can I break this down so simple? Okay, so basically I always wanted to talk. When I was 23, 22, 22 years old, I got pregnant with my son, and I sat down for a while and was looking at like a lot of motivational videos. I came across Les Brown. I'm like, oh, this is something I want to do. Always had the gift of gab. But I just never felt worthy enough to do it. Right. But on this journey since young, um, with like, you know, my growing up history with, you know, my mom and stuff like that, I always was self-developing myself. I just never knew that's something I was actually doing. I was always going through the acknowledgement process of just acknowledging where I was at, accepting what was given to me. Okay, this is life, this is what happened, learning to find forgiveness and where I didn't even know where I could find it, but just finding forgiveness to forgive people, you know, adults that would say like snide comments to me or things of that nature. And then we're going through healing. Like I think my first healing experience was when my grandmother passed away. My grandmother raised me, but she just died like out of nowhere. She could have warned somebody, but she chose not to. She just wanted to go. But I felt like that was just a never-ending process of grieving, because not only was I grieving her, but I was grieving a part of myself. And when I had to switch the mindset, like going through like mindset, straightening my mindset, challenging my mindset, and then literally like I'm now learning like, you know, habits. Like I don't have to have a routine, but I can have smart habits that can influence my day-to-day life just as well as a routine. So I went into self-development because I saw like in my like growing up in my community, I'm from Staten Island, New York, but Park Hill. So if you ever heard of the Wu-Tang, that's where I'm from.
If I ever heard of the Wu Tang,
Just saying, because when I be saying that, people be like, "What? Like really?" But yeah, the Wu
I'm
Tang.
not
That's
Generation Z. Don't do that to me.
yeah, but yeah. So basically, where they're from, that's where I'm from, and just seeing like the people around where I was at is that they had so many problems, but they didn't know the real problem was self. Like they didn't know that they wanted everything around them to change, but they was not willing to change themselves. And me personally, I noticed that as well because I have a boutique business. So I basically created a business so I could learn business firsthand, so I could actually do what I actually wanted to do, which was to speak. But I didn't know how to go about that. So I was like, oh, let me hop into a product-based business. This would be easy, and it wasn't. But that journey, it was not. Yeah, it was. I'm still trying to keep it alive, but that
Good
journey.
luck and congratulations.
Thank you. That journey basically taught me that like you can try to pursue anything, right? You could be anything in this world. You have it at your fingertips, right? You can go create businesses on top of businesses. If you're a good singer, you could go be a singer. Like you can do anything. But if you don't fix self and what's internal will always sabotage the progress you're making on your external. And that's what I realized, because I hit a peak in my business when I was very successful, but myself, my mindset, everything was like all over the place. Like I was unhappy within myself. I was happy on the surface, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm being so successful at this. But inside, I was like, what is going on? And I saw that so much growing up in my community, in my friendships. And I was like, this is the missing puzzle. Like nobody wants that. Nobody wants to have to turn the mirror on themselves, but it's a need. So I just felt like God really sat me down for 6 months. I was in a 6 months hiatus, and that was this year. I surrendered my life to God in January. And then from January up until June 11th, he was like, okay, you're going to sit here. You're going to be quiet. You're going to listen. And in that moment, I kind of went through a transition of just working on me. And it didn't cost nothing. It really just cost time. That's it. I just needed time with myself to figure out me, to figure out what happiness was, to figure out my definitions of what's a true, what do I really want out of this one time of life that I'm getting? What do I really want it to be? Do I really want to be like, okay, I want to be known. I want to be able to change lives, but how am I doing that? Because selling clothes to people, it's helping them in a convenient time, but it's not really changing their lives in a drastic way. And going through that journey, and just having that relationship with God and being still in that moment, I got the best answer was that everybody needs to have a self-development journey where they're they're learning to love themselves. You know, they're learning to be one with themselves, to be at peace with themselves. Because I feel like the biggest battle we ever will have in this life is with ourselves. If it's with our
Absolutely.
mindset, if it's with our ability to adapt to change, it's always going to be us battling us. Yes, we have competition. Granted, that's when business comes in. But when it comes to the real competition, is always going to be ourselves. And that plays a part in anything we choose to do.
Right.
So when I noticed to get on this, you know, this path to basically allow people to just acknowledge that, like, self-development, a lot of people when they think of self-development, they believe that it's like this hard thing because you gotta cry, you gotta break through, you're gonna be miserable, you're gonna be
There's gonna be
isolated.
some tears. There's
Yeah,
gonna be
but it's gonna
some.
be, but it's cleansing. It's really
Right.
just cleansing your soul. And we're in the Black community, crying is a weakness. In the
Yep.
Black community, allowing to look at yourself, you was never taught that. Like, even I grew up being everybody else's business. Oh, Shanae down the block is freaking Marquita's husband. Like, we were so taught to be in everybody else's business but our own. So when you're finally in your own business, it stings a little, because for once in your life, you have to really like speak about yourself to yourself and confront yourself. You're no longer doing it on the outside, you're more so doing it on the inside. And I just felt it was needed, especially when a lot of people in this world, they want change so bad. They want things to change drastically in a snap of a finger, but they don't know that real change starts within self. And that's why you have but especially within the Black community, a lot of setbacks is because we demand so much, but we don't come. I feel like some of us, not all of us, because I can't generalize it, but
Right.
majority of us, we can't show up to the plate if we was actually given the things that we have asked for. We can't show up. So you have, like, with me personally, if we was to get reparations as a Black community, I will make sure that every person that's getting it will have to get a financial literacy class. Why? Because majority of Black people do not know how to handle money. They don't. They are going to go buy the nearest Porsche, Lamborghini, the nearest chain, because again, it's image that is what
Is sold.
yes. So if
Mm-hmm.
I look like I'm good, then I should be
Mm-hmm.
good, right? No, I see people that look good every day and they're really suffering inside.
And
I see
that
people
that that
partying every week.
that
They're
goes to
suffering.
that comparison.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. Because they're not being real with themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And they're creating a mask. So if every time I step into this mask, this is the role I'm playing for today, right? But reality is always going to be there. It's not, that's like if you smoke a blunt, the high wears down. The troubles that you was trying to run away from is still there. It didn't go nowhere. It just paused for a little bit, but it's still there. And I feel like the more people try to avoid it, it just prolongs. It prolongs. I feel like the Black community could have been able to accomplish, we have accomplished a lot, but the things that we have asked could have been put in place a very long time ago if a lot of us had taken accountability for self, developed ourselves, and being able to stand firm in the power that we actually hold. Now, imagine if majority of Black people knew the power that they held. Not just the millionaires that we have, but the majority of them knew the power that they held, stepped into their power, took accountability for themselves. A lot of things that happen within our community that we fail to want to take accountability for wouldn't really be happening.
Well,
But
and
because
and if I may cut in a little bit, there's also another layer that sometimes gets glossed over when talking about the Black community rising back up, which is fatherlessness.
Mhm. Mm. See?
It's a that's a big thing because in terms of the nurturing of our spirit, the mothers
Mm-hmm.
got that all day. And
Yes.
shout out to Black mothers all around the world. But when it comes to doing the building
Mm-hmm.
and building the discipline, clean up your room and you know, like wear your suit on Saturday
Mm-hmm.
sometimes and just some stuff, right? And I'm not trying to paint a picture of do these things and your life will get so much better, you know, like one size fits all for everybody, but just in terms of actually building the
Mm-hmm.
new thing and coming and managing the money, we know statistically emotional spending is more of a feminine than masculine thing,
Mm-hmm.
not to be generalizing, you know.
But emotional spending,
um,
what I've noticed, is also a habit too.
it's learned.
Mm-hmm.
And so but building the new structure of Black American
Mm-hmm.
living will come from the men. And
Mm-hmm.
if all we have are grown boys, then there's a problem. And there's, the reason why many of us are grown boys, is largely due to fatherlessness. And that's not to blame the fathers either, right? Because I mean, at least when you look at like divorce statistics, a lot of the women are leaving because they think either they can do better or what have you, right? Whatever. The statistics, the results are what the results are.
Yeah.
So that's not to blame the mothers or the fathers, but if we could normalize putting the children before our own happiness, meaning our feeling of happiness, putting the
Mm-hmm.
children before the feeling of happiness, then we would have less fatherlessness and we would have more of an opportunity to build up men.
Yeah.
Um, in my opinion,
Definitely.
that's just a layer that I didn't want to skip when talking about building up the Black community, because yeah, like it can't happen overnight because there's, what is this, 70 some percent fathers aren't there. So it's yeah,
Wow.
it's crazy. It's
Wow.
crazy. So don't quote me on the stat there, but just it's high. It's
Yeah.
way too high.
But I feel like defaultly a lot of people fall, well, yeah, I'm gonna say people, because again, it doesn't just fall for Black people, but a lot of people fall into stereotypes. It's like that was something already programmed, and it was like, okay, why not? And I'm not gonna lie, when it comes to stereotypes, they're glorified more. Like, you have to understand, even in the culture we see when it comes to music and stuff like that, that stuff, like, I mean, it's glorified. Being ratchet, long nails, it's glorified. So when you're playing a part of a stereotype, it's expected. You know what I mean? And I feel like the thing with Black, I feel like to change that dynamic, it has to be seen more. The reason why people do is because they see it. They've seen it happen before. We as humans, we rely on our vision more than any of our other neurosystems.
Mm-hmm.
All of this, we don't like me touching. So I rely on my sight before anything. So if we see it more, we could probably kill that percentage because it's being seen more. But
Right.
you have to understand cycles repeat itself. So if you have a Black man who didn't have his father, he have a child he don't want, all right, well, I did good. He's gonna be all right. He puff it up and they're gonna it's ignorant, yes. It's not okay, but it's a never-ending cycle. And I feel
That
like
has to be addressed too. Yep.
yes, and on both parties, both people should be held accountable. Because you have Black women that will see a Black man and be like, "Oh, he should be a good candidate." It's more than just it's communication. It's understanding. Because there's women that will go out and will purposely have a child by somebody who said, "I don't want no kids." Well, I'm having this kid. You better be there. Well, you can't force me to do something. And I'm not saying it's an excuse, because again, it's a responsibility. Everybody in this world knows, besides kids 10 and under, what happens when you lay in a bed together and what can possibly happen. So accountability has to be taken on both sides. But as far as the Black man, I feel like by them visualizing that they run the household, they are the leader within anything, community and everything. If they can see that representation a little bit more besides in rappers and the average sports, they see that vision of Black family and Black excellence and things of that nature, or just regular. I think that can increase it, but you have to be honest, they don't see that. Even if you go walk into Ellie Elementary School, you don't see Black family, nothing. You don't see that because that's a norm. It's a norm not to have your dad. And it's kind of weird that if you do have two parents in a household. So I feel like within a community and as a whole, we have to make that normal. Yeah. Just like when you see a white person, it's normal for you to automatically assume they have money. They could be broke, but it's a norm. And I feel like by changing the norms, changing the narrative, you can increase. And honestly, I think recently statistics show that 70%, it went 70% up, that now there's a 2-family house when it comes to the Black community. So it's now a mom and a dad in a 2-family household. I think it went up, like as far as percentages went.
It's definitely not 70. That's not.
Or it probably went up. It's probably not.
Yeah, like we gotta look. We gotta look. You know what I'm saying? We're not the
Whoever
researchers
watches this,
here.
go Google it and
I'm
see.
glad it went up though. I'm glad it
It's
went up.
gonna go up though.
However, yeah, however much it went up, I hope that that continues to be the trend for sure.
Definitely. Because
We've
it
been
was.
going for about an hour and a half, and I
Oh,
got
okay.
one more question that I have to ask you. And I would love to have you back. I would love
Oh,
to have you back
awesome.
on the show.
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Maybe we'll meet your son. Who knows? Um, so it wouldn't be the Expression of Love podcast if I did not ask you this question. Please feel free to take your time, let it ruminate before giving your full answer. It is a loaded question, but it's loaded on purpose and loaded with love. So, question is, what is love to you at this
Mm,
stage of your life and understanding?
wow, that is powerful. Love to me is discovery. I feel like discovering different parts of what love can mean is a beautiful thing. Um, I recently got married to my husband. I've been with him for 12 years. But I feel like this new chapter is just discovering like different parts of what love can introduce to us. I feel like love should be safe. It should be understanding. Um, Love is patient, like really patient. But and love is sure. Like you have to be very sure. And love is one thing it is not sure or unfair. But to me right now, love is just discovering like different adventures and different ways to show show it. Um so that's what it is. And I think I learned that came to me because before my grandmother died, I felt like I loved her, but I loved her in a different way. And I feel like ever since she passed, I try to show my love um in like different ways to where it's like I don't always have to say it. You could feel it. So if it's spending time, if it's, doing something, it's just, trying to discover how to represent it differently and just hoping that the person on the other receiving end can feel that okay, that's love. That's a different way to show it. So I'm gonna say discovery.
Beautiful. Word, 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 word. Thank you so much. Well, Lovasia Washington, thank you so much for coming through the Expression of Love podcast. Where can people find you at?
You can find me on my Instagram at Lovasia Renee. 3 E's one underscore. Facebook is the same, and I have a YouTube called Snatchies Network where you can also find me. Where I have some self development tips for you guys, and I have a boutique www.snatchiesboutique.com where you can be able to find like any fashion that you are looking for to shop.
Snatch his soul. Awesome, awesome, awesome.